So I mentioned that one of my first thoughts that I had when I realized the truth of the Eucharist was, God, if you want me to, call me to be a priest. What I didn't mention is my second thought as a beautiful woman walked by was, oh my gosh, she's really cute. So now what do I do? You know, a lot of people seem to have a problem with the fact that the church asks most men to make a promise of celibacy for the kingdom in order to be a priest, to make a promise that they won't get married in order to be a priest. Now I know that for myself too, that was kind of a big fear. One of my biggest fears before going into seminary was that I'd be lonely. I just kind of pictured myself, if I were to get ordained, in this drafty old rectory, you know, sitting in this rocking chair all by myself, looking out the window, with a quilt on my lap, just kind of holding my cat. But the reality of the priesthood is very different than that. Because Christ has called me to make a promise of celibacy for the kingdom, He's opened my life up to some incredible friendships, some amazing relationships, as well as allowing me to be available for people if they ever need me at a moment's notice. Still, people will ask me, yeah, but Father, what about sex? Okay, what about it? We'll ask, well, don't you feel like you're missing out? Listen, is celibacy a sacrifice? Sure it is. Are there times when priests miss girls? Of course they do. Is it difficult? Sometimes. But question, since when was something worth doing automatically easy? In Matthew's Gospel, chapter 19, Jesus talks about celibacy for the sake of the kingdom. Despite what you've read or heard, this is not something the church just made up. Me embracing the promise of celibacy for the kingdom is just one more way that I get to love like Christ. Jesus was an unmarried man. I, as an unmarried man, can unite my life and my love to Christ's love and Christ's life and love like Him. Jesus did His greatest work when He was stripped of everything and offered Himself as a sacrifice on the cross. The priest, in persona Christi, is also called to offer his life as a living sacrifice for the church and for the world. As often as he sits there in the confessional, as often as he stands at the altar, the priest is meant to be that victim, that living sacrifice of Jesus. Every good father sacrifices for his bride and for his children. Because the priest is the bridegroom to the church, the bride of Christ. That means the church is His bride and all Christians are His children. He's called to sacrifice His life and His love so that others can have life. I'm here at Mount St. Mary's Seminary, which is one of the oldest seminaries in this country, surrounded by a great group of guys who are all discerning and studying for the priesthood. So the question comes up, isn't it unfair that only men can be priests? I think it's a very good question. And it's actually something that a lot of people feel very strongly about. I would say this, if the priesthood was a power or was a right, then yes, to restrict the priesthood to men would be unfair. But remember, the priesthood isn't about power. It's not about a right. It's about a call to be a father to the people of God. It's the call to stand in the place of Christ the bridegroom to His bride, the church. As a very intelligent person once said, only men can be priests because only men can be dads, and only women can be moms. St. Paul wrote to Timothy, and he called the church the household of God. Well, in this household, only men are fathers. Still, it makes sense that anyone who desired God would desire to be a priest. In fact, St. Therese of Lisieux, a doctor of the church, wrote that she actually desired to be a priest. But she also realized the truth about a vocation. That vocation means call. And a person doesn't call themselves, God calls them. She realized God was not calling her to be a priest, God was calling her to be a saint. In fact, Mount St. Mary's Seminary is here because one woman, Elizabeth Ann Seton, heard the call from God to say yes to Him with her whole life, to be a religious sister. She said yes, became a saint, and now in this spot, hundreds of men are formed to be priests. Because whenever a man says yes to God, it's a fantastic thing. Whenever a woman says yes to God, it is a fantastic thing. There's a number of Dominican sisters who continually say yes to God with their whole hearts, mind, soul, and strength. Let's hear a little bit about them and their yes to God.